Hello everyone, welcome to the session Open Anatomy of Open Source. I'm really thankful to DSC KIET team for their steps to promote open source culture and giving me a chance to speak about it. A short intro of myself. I am Vaibhav Gupta. I'm a final year undergraduate student. I'm an open source fanatic and OS kernel enthusiast and a coffee lover. I'm an active contributor to the open source kernels like Linux and RTEMS and have been a Linux kernel developer under the Linux Kernel mentorship program by the Linux Foundation. I'm also a Google Summer of Code mentor at RTEMS Project, where I was also a student developer last year. I guess again I went into talking about my interests. Sorry, force of habit. Can't help. Open source is love, and being able to be a part of it is most amazing. So let's get started. What is open source? I believe everyone in the tech world is familiar with this term. If not, no worries, this session is all about exploring. But still, what does one mean by open source? Source code which is open? Well, technically at some point, yeah, but it is not limited to that. If I say a software is open source, it definitely means yes that source code is open, but it can have many type of restrictions. I want to mention there are two type of things: open source software and free open source software, which we also call it as FOSS. So a company can have an open source software, which means the source code is open. You can go and check the source code and see how the code is working, how the software is working, but you cannot use it for your own purpose or for the commercial purpose. But in case of free and open source software FOSS, you can use it for commercial as well as own personal purpose also, right? So there is a thing called license. Open source softwares always have a license which helps them to categorize under OSS or FOSS. Also, the license tells the user that up to what limit you can exploit that software. It means some softwares can have a license which allows you to see the source code, as I told before, but you cannot use it for personal or commercial purpose, right? And talking about FOSS, there are two types of license which I would like to discuss that will help you to get a proper insight, and that is MIT and GNU GPL2. There are many other type of licenses, you can read about them. So MIT license give you all the permission, every type of permission you can expect. Like you can take the source code, you can modify it, you can add your own code to it, or you can use it for your commercial purpose or own purpose, teaching purpose. There is no limit in the MIT license. Whereas GNU GPL2 license is a strong copyleft license. I'll come back to the term copyleft, but a Linux kernel is distributed under the GNU GPL2 license. So what does GNU GPL2 says? That you must be wondering why I'm talking about this open source and license all things. But yeah, it is an important thing. We should know about it. That first we should know about open source and about these licensing and these things, because it is really very important. Before starting before entering into the world of open source or even touching any software, you should be aware that what are your limits, how up to how much extent you can go to contribute to the software, or you can use that software. So that's why I'm telling you this. So we were on GPL2, GNU GPL2. So what does GNU GPL2 says? It says that you can take my software, you can use it for commercial or personal purpose, you can do anything you want, but the term copyleft. But if you are making changes to the code, if you're modifying the code, or if you are adding your own code to it, you need to share that code with me again. Getting it? And the code which you got, like after modification, addition or something you got, that code should also be shared under the GNU GPL2 license. Getting my point? Confusing. Suppose I made a software ABC. Okay, it is under GNU GPL2. You want to use my software, use it for personal commercial purpose, no matter what. But if you are making changes to your code, okay, if you're making changes to your code, you need to share that changes with me. Also, the new code, the new software you made out of it should also be distributed under the GNU GPL2 license. That is GNU GPL2 for you. This is actually the main reason why Linux got so much popular and got so much stronger, because of this license, many proprietary companies started contributing to Linux because they were sure that their code will not be misused, or like their contributions will matter. It was like a proprietary company A was contributing. If proprietary company B is also like making some changes, they are also sharing that code, and this is how the Linux got so much strong, and it spread in the tech world. Okay, so you can go to this site, open source definition, free redistribution, source code, derived works, and you can check about it. This is on net. I've shared the link. Okay. Now, where is open source? Everywhere. Now, why this question? Because like if you talk about any software or any technology, the first question that comes in mind is where it is used. Like if I talk about blockchain, the first thing that comes into mind is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is using blockchain. Ethereum is using blockchain. Okay, so if I talk about open source, a person can ask me that where it is used. Everywhere. According to GitHub report, as I have mentioned, 99% of software projects in the world use open source technologies in some way or the other. It means directly or indirectly, maybe some open source tools, maybe something else. Like, let me tell you one thing. If you are like making even a hello world program in C, okay, you are not the only developer who has worked to make that hello world possible for you. There are minimum 75 plus other developers who made that possible. Why? You must be using a GCC compiler, which is again open source software. GCC compiler was made in collaboration with many developers around the world. So that hello world program, you just wrote the code, but the compiler part, the assembler, the linker, or even if you are using the Linux system, then you are like dependent on 7,000 plus or 20,000 plus developers around the world. That made that hello world possible. You know about recently a news was there, like capture, they made the image of a black hole, first image of a black hole. That particular software, the particular software that made that possible is also an open source software. Its code is present on GitHub. There's some statistics I wanted to share with you. This is called GitHub's the state of OCTOVERSE. The GitHub releases its state of OCTOVERSE every year. This is the report of 2019. That one of 2020 will come in, I guess, October or by the end of the October. So they do various they make various graphs and study based on the user data they get. You can see many things are there, like at school, at work. But the one thing I want to focus is the world of open source. You know that like by total number of contributors outside the United States, if you see, India is at second position. Like we are, if we don't count USA, we are the second country that is using open source technologies and contributing to it. So this data was made on the statistics of clones and forks. So yeah, are you dependent on open source? That is a good question. Are you dependent on open source? Let me ask you these questions. Are you using internet? Yeah, because many of the servers they run Linux, which is again an open source software. Even if you are surfing through the web, Facebook and all those all that websites that because we know websites are hosted on servers, and most of the servers in the world are running Linux. Are you using Android phones or even iOS phones? You know, Android uses the Linux kernel and iOS uses the XNU kernel. Both of these kernels are open source. Isn't it amazing? I'm sure you must have used the VLC media player. It is again an open source software. Chromium, Firefox, don't get confused with the Chrome. Okay, actually Chromium is the base browser. Google adds some proprietary functions and features to it, and rebrand it as a Chrome and distribute it. Both Chromium and Chrome are a product of Google, but Chromium is open source and Chrome is the proprietary one. Okay, so of course if you are using Chrome, you are like dependent on Chromium. So again, both Chromium and Firefox are open source projects. Python language, the most it is a very popular language, and if you are into tech world, you must have used Python, and if you are into MLAI, then of course it is your best friend. Again, it is an open source language. It is developed under the open source license. Amazed? Why open source? Yeah, this is my favorite question. Why open source? Okay, let me ask you one thing. Suppose you got into Google, okay, or Facebook, or any big proprietary company you want to boast about. I took the big name because it comes to about boasting, you want to boast a lot. So you want to boast that yes, I work for this particular company. Let me name the company as ABC. Okay, so you are working at ABC company. Now you are working on a particular product. A product is released by the company, but you want to tell the world that yes, I am working on this product, I wrote this particular code. You know what, you can't do it because you would have signed you must have signed NDA with that company. And most of the time what happens is, suppose a company ABC develops a product, so you are it is possible that you are not working on that product directly. You are working on some interior products, like that particular products run on some other products, okay, which are not open to the world, but you must it may happen that you are working on them. So now you can't even tell that yes, you are working on that particular product, because it is an internal product. It is not meant to be like announced into the world. And so how are you going to prove yourself? But in open source, everything is open. Literally everything is open. If I can you want to say that yes, I am contributing to Linux, how should I believe you? I can just take you to the website, take you to the repository and show yes, these are my code, these are the changes I made, these are my commits. Yes, that's how I'm able to show it. But for me, I opted open source. I actually started open source for learning purpose. I wanted to go into the domain of operating systems and kernels and embedded systems and all these things. So as you know, the college syllabus, the bachelor's syllabus is not really focused on that area. So it was very difficult for me to find the resources. But luckily, I was under good guidance of my seniors. They told me about this open source thing, and they told me about the projects where I can see. So I started looking, exploring, and that's how my journey started with the open source. I started looking for open source kernels, read their code, understand that how things work, and get some hands-on. Because if I talk about this kernel domain, you can't just read books, read theory and do it. You need some implementation. You need to know that how things work. So that was the starting point of my open source. The best thing is you can make the whole world dependent on your code. You're getting my point? Like if I say that can you estimate how many Android phones are running all around the globe? All of them are using Linux kernel. And you can easily say that if you have worked on it, that I have made changes to this Linux kernel, and now this change is running on all the Android phones around the world. You can boast that how much big impact you have made. Open source is really, it has a different meaning for every person. One of the perks is you get to interact with the developers there, because most of the developers, they have been into that project for like 20 or 30 plus years. They are professionals. Can you imagine that being a student, can you get a chance that you are able to interact with the chief architect of ABC big company? No, you can't, because it's not like that direct or open communication possible there. But in open source, I can easily interact with the maintainers or sub maintainers, device driver maintainers in Linux kernel, I can take guidance from them, I can learn so many things from them. If I have a doubt, I can ping them, yes I want to. There are many things that can go on. So networking is one of the best thing that is possible in open source. And practical knowledge, as I told, that many things are there that you need a practical knowledge, but you don't have enough resources. Get into the open source, everything is possible there. How to start with open source 101 is there. Okay, so starting with something is not like I can say the rules are same for each and every field, whether it's education, sports or something, anything, the rules are same. First, choose the domain, what you want to do. Talking about myself, you can say that I wasted my first 6 months of my college in exploring myself, that what exactly I want to do. I started doing Android app development. I even did web development. I even into the back end, and I even did front end. Okay, I did system programming, and at a point I was also involved in MLAI projects with my friends. But at the end, I was like, those things are not my cup of tea. I'm made for kernel, Linux, like kernel and OS things. I can't do all those things. I was sure. So yeah, those 6 months were worth it. I was able to decide that what I want to do, and this is the first thing that every person should do. Find the domain, because after that you know that what you want to do, in what field you want to go, or what opportunities you want to opt. Otherwise, you will spend your whole, like, after the coming year, you will spend your coming years in confusion, that either you want to do that or that, or do that or that. But that time, it will be a too wrong time to do the right thing. Okay, so explore your domain, decide what you want to do. After that, search for the projects. You can search for projects like GitHub, GitLab, and gsoc organization page also. Let me show you. Just go to GitHub. Suppose you want to work on, you can say what you want to work on. You want to work on blockchain. See, there are different, there are so many open source projects. There are so many different projects. Okay, do you know Bitcoin is also open source? See, Bitcoin. If you want to know how Bitcoin works, just see their code. Bitcoin is a result of collaborative development of so many developers. I don't know if you know the story. Bitcoin, there was an anonymous paper, and then some open source developers came together and they built the software around that paper. So yeah, you can see the code, you can even contribute it, and then you can boast, yeah, that if you are using Bitcoin, that is possible because of me, I am a part of it. Okay, so you can see how Bitcoin works, how its blockchain is working, how the transactions go on, and so many things are possible. And suppose you want to work on what? You want to work on machine learning. Machine learning projects are there. If you are thinking about going for a particular language, suppose you want to work in Java, you can search like this also. Okay, and for gsoc or other open source program page are like good platform where you can search for open source projects of your interest. Like, I go to the organizations page, I can search for the categories. Suppose you want to go into security, yeah, it is there. Metasploit, HoneyNet project. Suppose you want to go into web, yeah, web is there. Suppose you like this OpenWisp project, learn and more, go to their site and see. You can get the documentation, you can go to get the code. Okay, so like this you can search about. If you are like this, that's what I told. Be sure that what domain you want to go in. If you know that you want to go into this domain, you can search the related projects and opportunities. The next part, join their communication channel. Okay, the best thing about the open source projects is their communication channels are also open. It is not like they have some internal chat platform that on what the developers are like, interacting, and rest of the world doesn't know what is happening. And if I talk about legacy projects which are too old, they mostly work on mailing list. Like Linux is working on mailing list. The my first organization, RTEMS Project, it also works on mailing list. Just go and I guess, I don't know, communication channel, if I guess support. Yeah, see, this project is also on mailing list. Mailing list is the preferred channel for support request, discuss ideas, feature request and discussion which require the forum is there. They have a live chat. So communication channel is the like media through which the development goes on in open source communities. Okay, now run the project. This is a very important point. Most of the new developers miss this thing. Okay, this is good. You selected the domain, you got the project, you joined their communication channel, but the first thing you should do is run their project. Try to if the project is on GitHub, fork it, clone it on your system, or download it, just build it and try to run it on your local system. Okay, because many developers start contributing in this manner only. They are able to get their first issue or first contribution in this way. Even in my case, when I started with RTMS, I tried to run their kernel on my system. I was using Arch Linux distribution that time. Now also I'm using, I was using this distribution that time, and most of the developers were not using this distribution. So while I was running this project, I noticed that a particular a package is not installed in my system, and actually it is not installed by default in many of the systems. So that thing was missing in their documentation. So my first contribution was actually in their documentation, but yeah, it was a contribution, and I was able to figure it out because I tried to run their project on my local system. As I told, many developers start in that way only. First download the project and try to run it on your system. This way you can see how the things are working, and maybe because every open source organization want that their software should be easy to use, and if you are able to simplify that process also, that is also a major contribution. And also this is important because you should be a user first, then a developer. If you don't know how the project is working, if you don't know how to use it, how are you going to develop it? Suppose you are contributing to Android operating system. Okay, it is also open source, as I told before. Okay, I didn't told this before. I told that Android was using Linux, which is open source. Android itself is also an open source project. Okay, so if you are trying to contribute into Android, if you don't know how the Android system works, how its features works, how it is able to give so much libraries, drivers and frameworks. So if you don't know that, how are you going to identify that yes, this is the issue, or you can add one more feature, a particular this feature to it? So first be a user, then a developer, then observe. I mentioned this point, although it is not that much necessary, but it may be necessary for many people. It was necessary for me too, because many developers like me had or may be having inferiority complex, like the project is too complex, the project is too big. I had this when I started working on RTMS as well as Linux too, that code base is too big, this is so big project, this software is this software is used in so many places. The RTMS kernels were used in satellites too, and I thought this is so much big project, I'm not yet that much skilled, I don't have that much skill set, what should I do? So what I did that time is observe things. I joined their communication channel. I saw that what the development changes and revisions are taking places. I saw what interactions are going on, or idea discussion is going on. A particular patch was submitted, then discussions, and each time I encountered a new term, I searched it on Google or in their project, or I even ping those developers, asking them that what it is about. I read that I read this patch, I read this discussion, and I'm confused about what you are trying to say here. Please elaborate it. And so this is how I got involved. I got familiar, and I was able to explore that yes, now I can do it. I am I was familiar enough now making changes in the code. Okay, so many developers start contributing with documentation. It is a good option because documentation is as important as the software itself. Because if you don't have a manual for something, how are you going to use it? Literally. So as I told about myself, in my case also, I started with the documentation, because many times it happens that yes, you are familiar with the code now, you know how to make changes, but you don't know how the development process is going on, or how to submit up change, or how the change is going to be accepted finally into the main code. Okay, if you don't know that process, start with something small. There is no problem with the small. Each contribution counts. Okay, even the contribution to documentation count. Don't worry about it. So like I told, so many developers start with the documentation. They submit their changes either in the form of a patch or pull request. Then they get familiar with the development process also, and then they start making changes in the code. You got it? So these were the hardly 6 steps. Okay, so 101 is not open source is not too much complex. Don't get that thing into your mind that yeah, it is it can be so much complex thing. Yes, open source is making so much significant impact on the world, but yes, they also want new developers to join them. They also want collaboration with some new developers. So all the communities are very welcoming in nature. You should keep this thing in your mind. Every community, every open source community is very welcoming in nature. So this is a slide from a workshop in Linux conference presented by Shua Khan, and I have given the link to it. Is this coming? Okay. So she also was trying to explain how a new kernel developer enters into the community. So I guess the steps are similar. First, a person is a window shopper, means they come and see what is going on and what it is all about. Then they become a silent observer, then new contributor, active contributor, expert contributor, or even maintainer. Some of them also become the testers, which is also very important, which is also a very important role. Many communities have a different group for developers and different group for testers. So programs to promote open source, they are now you have seen that how much big and significant impact the open source makes on the world. So many companies, or you can say there are many programs all around the world which try to promote this open source culture, or which try to get new developers into the open source ecosystem. The most popular is one in India is Google Summer of Code. I said India because if I'm not wrong, about 2018 statistics, there were around 1100 developers selected all around the globe. Among them 600 were Indians. So you see, Google Summer of Code is very popular in India, and it also means that competition is big in India. So there is outreachy, community built mentorships. There is a brief list. Yeah, you can see these are Summer of Code programs, SOC short form. These are Season of Docs. Summer of Code program means because most of the programs are targeted for new developers who are actually student. So students mostly get their time during the college breaks in summers or in winters. So there is Season of Docs, Google Summer of Docs, Google Season of KDE, and Linux Foundation Networking Internship. gsoc is there. Summer of Haskell is there. Oh sorry, I said Season of Docs at Google. Okay, yeah. And open source competitions are also there. Not just the programs competitions are there, like GCI's competition. GCI, you can explore this list. I guess the timeline is also mentioned, link is also mentioned, you can explore. So there are many programs. I will talk about Google Summer of Code because it is very, very popular in India, and all the programs have almost similar, you can say, pattern or the timeline and everything. They all almost function in a similar way. So if I talk about Google Summer of Code, of course you're going to get familiar with Outreach or some other programs. Just teeny tiny changes or in their, application process may be different or something else may be different, but rest things are going to be same. So talking about Google Summer of Code, I don't think that these programs or these things that, require some extra briefing or something, or how to start with it. 101 is like for everything. You are into open source, these are just open source programs. They are just like additional perks. You apply to it and you are able to get into the program and develop it. So first thing is you should be like into that you should be familiar with open source. You should be connected with open source, with an open source organization. That will be a plus point. Points to keep in mind when applying for them. Okay, now we can get some few points which should be focused. Focus on the projects which are on priority. This is the this is one of the big mistakes students do when they apply for programs like Google Summer of Code. Many organizations have many projects on priority. Suppose I have an open source organization. I have a software. Now there are particular things or particular changes or particular features, you can say, that I want to be immediately implemented in my software. So I will keep that thing in priority, and I will look for a student who is ready to work on this particular things, these particular problems or projects that I kept on priority. I'll look for that student. Okay, so get this thing in mind. I've seen cases like this, that there is a student A, there is a student B who is very very good, but A applied for a project which is in priority, B applied for a project which was like, okay, it is mentioned there, but A got selected and B got rejected. So this thing happens. Always look for the projects which are on priority. Now how to know that which project is on priority? It is very easy. Just while you were observing, you must have observed that on what project or on what particular issue or what particular new feature the most of the work is going on. Okay, there is another way is simply ask the organization administrator or the people or the community that what project or what particular thing is on priority. And Google Summer of Code programs even allow a student to apply for a different project that is not mentioned by the organization. Suppose organization mentioned this that we want student developers for this and this thing. There is a new student who came and thought that, sir, your software is missing this particular thing, this thing. I can work to make this thing possible for you, which will be very beneficial for your project. So a student is allowed to do that too. I know my senior who did this thing. He proposed a new project by himself and he got selected for it. Okay, but then again, because he was able to explain this thing and he was able to explain that to organization that this project you have not mentioned, but it should be there and it is a priority project. Okay, the next point is carefully read guidelines. This is also very important because there are various organizations which have their own terms and conditions. For example, I know about a student. She was working for I should not mention the organization. She was working for a particular organization under the Google Summer of Code program, and they had that rule that you cannot work or you cannot do any other internship if you are selected as a Google Summer of Code student under organization. But somehow she was doing, and the organization got to know about it, and she got rejected. Sorry, not rejected. She got disqualified in between. Okay, so carefully read guidelines, and if you are confused, again I'm saying just talk to the open source community or the administrator there, because communication is open, and again I'm telling you, open source organizations are very welcoming in nature. Keep active interactions with mentor and community, because developers can be many. There can be many technical prodigies. There can be developers who are very good, who are best at it, but the important thing which count is, are you able to work with them? are you able to get into loop with them? Are you able to adjust with them? Are you able to, like, the you can say, get involved with them? These things matter, and this is why you should keep you should keep an active interaction with the community. If you are going to work on a project, keep like interacting, keep updating about your progress and what you are trying to do, or keep asking questions even for the doubt you are getting. Don't just think that it is too noob of me or to ask it. Of course, you should first search about it, that if you are stuck at particular problem, try to first search about it from yourself, from your side, because those things count, that what type of questions you are asking in the community. Okay, but if you are not able to find it by yourself, don't think that the community will think that I'm such a bad programmer. No, just tell them that you try to search in this way, you followed this particular site, but you are still confused. Ask them that how to solve this issue, or how to understand this thing. You should be active there. They don't want best developer, they want promising developer. These 2 points are interrelated, because best developer can be any, but if you are not able to adjust with the community, if you are not able to work with the community, how the community is going to select you? Because they want promising candidate, they want a candidate who can complete the work. If you are already involved with the organization from last 6 to 7 months, the organization has seen you working, the organization has seen your progress, your development process, your thought process, your problem solving skills. They know you, so of course they are going to select you. Many students, what they do is, I guess Google Summer of Code application starts in March or end of March, like that, or April something, I'm not sure the timeline, but it is around that period, and the students are joining the organization in the month of January, February, and then they complete that they didn't got selected. How organization is going to select you if they are not familiar with you? Okay, yeah, there are some cases, because there sometime it happens that developer is very good, and within 2 months the developer is able to prove their worth to the organization, so organization take a chance and select that student. But that is a risky thing, and that I won't support, because in that case I can easily see that developer is just coming for an opportunity. The developer is not going to involve with me in the future. So those things happen very less. You should not take part in these programs just for the sake of opportunities. Try to get involved. Your priority should be learning. Okay, and organizations want that these programs are meant for students. These programs are meant that a new developer will be added to the community and will be contributing to the community in the future. Okay, they want new people in the open source. But if a person is just coming for the sake of opportunity, and it's like they won't be with the organization in the future, then I don't think that it's a good thing. The priority should be learning. You should be involved with the community. Get your proposal reviewed by mentor of your project. Now, a proposal, yes, proposal is the center thing, like always the center of attraction and discussion. But I have not kept any particular special set of instruction or other different separate slide for proposals, because they don't require one. Writing proposal does not have a particular set of rules or particular set of golden rules written by God on the stone. No, it is not like that. Proposals are like simply how you are proposing to organization how you are going to work throughout the summer. Okay, and many organizations have their own template for the proposals. I guess in my organization, when I applied for RTEMS, they also had a template they give to us, that proposal should be made in this particular way. But I have seen many organizations that accept the proposal. Org wiki yeah, there are many organizations who accept very fancy or very elaborative proposals. I have seen students making 22 pages long proposals with so many graphics in there, and flowcharts are there. I've seen students even mentioning their timeline, that in this particular week they are going to work this much, by this much, these many weeks they would be able to implement this particular thing. They were so much precise, and they briefed it. So if you can see, yes, my organization actually publishes the proposals openly, so anyone can see the proposals. So as you can see, my organization gave me this particular template, and we worked around the template. There is a project abstract, project description, then there's project deliverables. I had a proposed schedule, that what will be done in the application period, acceptance waiting period, community bonding period, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, what I'll do in those particular sets. I've seen students like in other organizations, they even mention for a particular week that what particular week what thing they are going to do, how much work they are going to do, what exactly they are going to implement in that particular week. Then I mentioned about my relevant background experience, personal thing. These are just personal information. We also mentioned about future involvement, continued involvement. Okay, so this was about my proposal. But as I told before, that my organization gave me a template, but there are many organizations that accept whatever the student is submitting, and students have the freedom to get creative. Okay, so I have seen students, like I can tell you a few examples. I have seen students writing even code snippets in their proposals. For example, my friend was going to work on a particular library. So what he did was, he wrote the code snippets. He told that these features will be added in the library, and the code will look something like this. He made some dummy functions also. He wrote some dummy functions on his proposal and wrote that this particular API is going to work in this way. It will accept this particular arguments, and the result will be thrown in this manner. I will do these things. These will be the functions, and these will be the particular things. I've seen many students adding flowcharts to explain what additional feature or what work they are going to do. Then there are many students. I don't know the name of that particular student. I would have told you. He was going to work for a particular organization in which he was going to work on Android app for that organization. So what he did, he made a YouTube video. In that video, he mentioned an animation in which he displayed that how that particular app is, how the UI UX is going to function, where the buttons will be placed, how the app will function, how the app will login system will be there, menu system will be there, how the features are going to be implemented. And he mentioned what he did was that then he took the YouTube link of his video and mentioned in the proposal. So just think how easily he was able to tell the organization, yes, that this work I am going to do. Okay, so there are various things you should keep in mind while writing proposals. You should be clear that what you're going to do. You should mention project abstract, project description. There should be a proposed timeline, that by what month, by what week, or by what number of weeks you are going to implement a particular thing. Be precise about it, because the more planning you do, the more it shows to the organization, yes, that you are serious about it. Okay, so mention a timeline. Mention that how you are going to involve in the future. This is a very strong point, that how you will continue the development in future. Mention about your personal skills, but don't just go on boasting or telling lies. So I guess that's it. Keep contributing. Happy open sourcing. Thank you. Thanks again, DSC KIET team.